Hey everybody, YouTube says I'm live. You gotta believe them. You gotta take them at their word. I'm looking at the little replay. It takes me a second to figure out. Wait a second, am I really live or what? I still haven't figured it out in the replay. Hey everybody, it's Wednesday. Ask me anything. I see people have already got stuff in here, and the first stuff is from the Cube. Oh, I want to say hi to Earthcat. Earthcat said hello, and I want to say hi back. Cube is saying, "Hey, how are you? Michael here. I hope you're doing pretty good. Feeling well as well." Yeah, I am. I'm having a great day. Thank you. Preliminary question. Could paranoia be caused by evil spirits? Whether you have schizophrenia? By the way, not asking for medical advice. Yeah, I'm not trying to give out medical advice. Everything that has to do with the mind is very complicated. We know that on the physical side. What Swedenborg seems to be illustrating is that there's a whole nother batch of complexity that comes with the spiritual side of life interfacing with that physical side. Paranoia. All evil and falsity comes out of hell. Paranoia, what's paranoia? It is, I'm worried that stuff is going to happen bad that's not going to happen. It's the opposite of trust in divine providence, the belief that God is running the universe. And just generally, it seems like, hell is always trying to make you afraid. And so I would say, smoke, there's fire. If it feels like it comes from hell, it's got to come there somehow. I don't know the exact route, but William Boyd says, after 40 years in a church, I've lost faith in God's ability to intercede in my day-to-day life. Does God feel upset and angry with me because of this? True Christianity 56. God is unable to look at us with a frown. God doesn't get upset about anything. I shouldn't say that. Who am I to speak for God? But according to Swedenborg, God doesn't get upset in the same way that your ego would get upset. Like if somebody's saying, hey, you didn't believe I could do this thing. Now I'm a little bit, what does that say about what you think about me? God doesn't do that because God is infinitely secure in who God is. So, no, not upset. I've lost faith in God's ability to intercede in my day-to-day life. I would think that God feels compassion for us all the time. That if you're feeling, that's not like a happy feeling that you've lost faith in God's ability to intercede. I wouldn't think. It doesn't seem like you're saying, it's so great, now I don't think God can help me. It seems more like you're resigned and you've been through some stuff. And I would think that God is feeling like, I'm sorry that I know that it's been hard, and I'm sorry that you're feeling that way, and that's not what I want. And I wish that we could do this life thing in a more pleasant way, but just give me a little time. I'm working things out. God does not get angry. God doesn't take offense at anything. God doesn't take offense at anything. Like, you didn't do what I wanted, so I'll get upset. The only upset God would have is a zeal for our well-being. So if we're harming ourselves, harming other people, God can be upset about that, but that's not the same as being disapproving or like, you've disappointed me. That's what I think anyway. Richard Steven. Hello, everyone. I can't stay around today, so here's my question. Okay, Richard, hopefully you're watching this in post. Did Immanuel Kant's categorical imperative have any influence on Swedenborg's experiences? It seems like conscience is a big part. Oh, come on. How are you going to ask that? You think I know? You think I'm that educated? I don't. I know that Kant and Swedenborg were contemporaries. I know that I believe that Kant had some interest in Swedenborg and seemed to have some favorable stuff to say about him, but then also came out with some public, very withering critiques of Swedenborg and mocked him. Didn't he write The Marriage of Heaven and Hell? So I would think it would be the other way around. But I could say I don't know of any direct influence, but then again, Swedenborg never wrote, I learned this from so-and-so. He always talked about spiritual influences. Could be, well, not always, because he was obviously influenced by Greek philosophers and a lot of other traditions. In conclusion, I don't know. Don't come back and watch. It's not worth it. Listen, Richard, I'll save you time. Don't come back and watch. I didn't answer it very well. Matthew Bush, happy Wednesday. Tamara Jackson, hello. Angela B, hi everyone. Oh, Angela B's got a question. Do angels read our minds and our every thought? I understand we get a life review, but is every thought and action reviewed? I don't think it has to be. I think it can be. Everything that happens is to maximize usefulness if it's happening in heaven. So Swedenborg seems to talk about near-death experiences. Will talk about the life review as something that almost everybody goes through, although not all near-death experiences include a life review. It seems to be a common thing that people experience in a near-death experience. Swedenborg's description of going back through the details of your memory of your life seems to be called up to fit whatever situation you have. So on the negative side, people who are trying to deny that they had committed really serious crimes like murder will have their memories essentially exposed so that everyone can understand, know that you did kill someone. And then on the reverse side, he says every state of goodness and truth returns for people. But your question seems to be wondering about, do they read every thought right now? Angels can read more than every thought. They know the pieces and the components that goes into your thoughts. That every thought we have actually has parts to it. It'd be kind of like, oh, there's a car going by, and you might say, there's a red one. Or if you know a lot about cars, you say, that's a red Taurus. But angels would be able to, as it's going by, they know the state of the carburetor. And, oh, here we go, with me not knowing what's in a car. The engine and the belts and the filters and everything else that's in there. That they know the pieces of our thoughts and why our thoughts are like they are. I don't know if they're doing that to us every moment. They can certainly do it on command. Kathy V, any insight into what the spiritual substance is made up of? Yes, there is insight. It's love. I'm serious, it's love. I know that sounds corny. Welcome everyone who just showed up. That sounds corny, but love is the primary substance from which everything was created, and wisdom is the form into which it was created. So spiritual substance is love in the molded into the shape of wisdom. Check out Swedenborg's Divine Love and Wisdom for more about that. His book, Divine Love and Wisdom. Hello to you, PA, Patriot Eric, Lisa Delgado. Why do extraterrestrials exist? Swedenborg does talk about meeting spirits of people who lived on other planets. He likes to call everyone he met human. I don't think he's saying that there's differences between how people from different planets look and how they're shaped, but they do share generally a humanoid kind of form. But he says they're all humans. And what makes you human is your will and your understanding. So probably, almost certainly, anyone who lived on a different planet would be a different species biologically, but they're human. So why do they exist? The same reason that we exist, so that the Lord can make us happy forever in heaven. The divine providence, this is quoting from divine providence, has for its goal a heaven from the human race. So the point of why have people at all? Because only when you have people on whatever planet can you make them happy in heaven forever and have that happiness grow and grow, which is what divine love wants. That's what its deepest urge to do is. Also, Swedenborg is pretty convinced that everything has a use, and so he felt like all these planets in the universe, they are there for people to inhabit. Hi, Shelly. The Pearl says cool desktop background. We were just wondering if we should switch this background or not. We didn't make that art, but it's great. Gail Lemieux saw the interview with Truth Seeker and liked it. Thank you, Gail. That was fun. Angela B says, I'm so glad Off the Left Eye exists. This channel has improved my life. That's great to hear. It's improved my life too. Getting to hang out and talk with all of you about Swedenborg so much has definitely gotten me to understand it better. And so thank you, everybody. Rain Lion Zero says, so why do we have egos? Did God create ego as well, or is it just a part of our sin to have ego? There's a story in the beginning of the Bible, Rain Lion, which is about Adam and Eve. And our story begins where Adam and Eve are in the garden and everything's going great, and then the serpent tempts Eve, and then she's like, oh yeah, I'll eat that fruit. And then she says, Adam, don't you want this? And he's like, yeah, of course. And then that's how it goes down. As I understand it, the serpent is the sensory impressions we have which lead us to believe that we're separate. And Eve is our sense of autonomy. And so so sensory impressions, as we fell into selfishness and materialism, deceived our sense of autonomy. And with that, Adam, I think he's like our rationality. Our sense of autonomy convinced our rationality that we were separate, and this was what caused us to fall out of that Garden of Eden state of mind. We did a show called, what's it called, people? It's called The Meaning of Adam and Eve. That's what I think. Let's search it. The Meaning of Adam and Eve. Swedenborg. I wonder if it would come up if I didn't search Swedenborg. When are we going to be somebody on YouTube? Here we go. Come on. All right, so I'm going to put that in the chat. It's right here. Or if you're just watching in post, it's search The Meaning of Adam and Eve, that talks more about that. And I say that because if you think of ego as in our sense of autonomy, a sense of being separate, which some people will use it to describe that, we have to have that. That's good. It right now is confused, but ultimately it's what allows God to join with us, because in order for us to develop a relationship with God, we have to have a sense that we live separately, because then we can accept God's gifts like life and all the ability to do everything good and feel them as our own and act on them as if this is mine. And doing that gets us to love that thing and then become like God, because we start to love the things of God. And that's what joins us. So it's really important. We've got to have that ego, that sense of self. If you're thinking of the ego as our self-centeredness, that's fine too. It's just the problem is it's gotten to be the most important thing in our life, and it needs to be a subservient thing. So ultimately, where we need to get to is where what lights us up in life, the thing that is most exciting to us, is to do something good for humanity, to do something that serves a higher purpose, whatever purpose we're serving. That's what excites us. And from that, in service of that, we have an ego, which is, I want to do my job well. I want people to think I'm cool, and whatever else goes into that. But it's not primary. So if it ever gets unruly or wants us to do harmful things, we can say, nope, I'm not doing that. And ultimately, it's not in it for itself. It's trying to help us be enough of a living being to go and do that good stuff. Just Gene, so good to see and hear you, Curtis. Good to see your typing as well. Rainland Zero also, is ego all bad? Hopefully I just answered that. Or did I? Eric Rockham says, hi Curtis, question. Which one of Swedenborg's writings not published during his lifetime have you found to be of particular interest? Excluding spiritual experiences? Not fair. That's my favorite book. Revelation Unveiled. Okay. Let's see. That's the new translation. It's kind of confusing because there's Apocalypse Revealed and Apocalypse Explained. That was the Old English translation of these two books. Apocalypse Revealed, which is the one he published, which is now being called in the New Century Edition, as yet unreleased, Revelation Unveiled. But if we're talking about neither of those two titles, but we're talking about Apocalypse Explained, this is his work on the book of Revelation that he did not publish. That thing rocks. No offense to Apocalypse Revealed, or the one that he did publish. But Apocalypse Explained is more interesting. I said it. It's more interesting. It has a lot more detail. It's more relevant. I really like Apocalypse Explained. Kathy V, question: if on Earth the physical, both bad and good, exists, how is it separated? If so, in the afterlife, assuming that in the heavenly planes, bad could not be present. So, here, man, you don't know. You're hanging out with someone, you don't know what they're going to do, if they're going to steal your wallet when you're not looking. That's because here, physical laws run everything. So, somebody being good or bad, and I'm using that term, I'm overgeneralizing and making it simplistic, but I'm just doing that to prove a point, right? We're a mix of good and evil. People have reasons why they are the way they are. In general, though, in a cartoony way, if you're a bad person, meaning that you are actively and without restraint going and doing things that you know hurt other people, but you don't care, or you justify it in some flimsy sort of way, that doesn't show up physically. I mean, maybe this is stuff inside your brain, but it's not like you can take a DNA sample and be like, yep, that person has an intent to be bad. And same thing with good, because that stuff, the majority of what's going on in both of those states is spiritual. And spiritually, what you think and what you feel has a huge impact on the spiritual material that we were talking about earlier. What you love makes you who you are. At the beginning of this show, we're saying love is the spiritual substance. So there, if you we just were recording a short about this morning. If you love harming other people, if that's what's fun and you indulge in it without any real issue, that shapes your spirit. That literally makes your spirit look the way that it does. And same thing with if you love making other people happy, that makes you look like an angel. So not only does it affect how you look, but it affects everything inside you. It actually affects how you breathe. It says that people that love what's evil and harmful, that forms every bit of them, including it forms their spiritual lungs. And so when they get into the atmosphere of heaven, which is the aura given off by everyone who loves what's good and true, their lungs can't handle it because their lungs are made in the opposite image. So there is a system that automatically pushes unlike things apart. It's sort of like you'll have elemental reactions where that'll happen. If something is hydrophobic, when I was in school learning biology, we talked about hydrophobic particles, which means, hydrophobic, what is it, lipids or proteins or something? So one side of them doesn't like water. And that side will always flip away from water, and that's how cells can have the inside parts facing in and the outside parts facing out. It's like that, but with human beings, because what you love really affects who you are, who you literally are, and where you can inhabit. Anonym 38. In heaven, will we have bodies? Will we be able to see our bodies? I was just sort of talking about that. Yes. We have bodies. We have bodies. You have spiritual bodies. You'll be able to see your bodies. You interact with people there just like you do here. But here, what you look like it's genetics. It's also like how the world went. Like even now, I still have a gap in between my teeth, but I had so many braces and retainers when I was little. So they changed how I look, right? It's just physical stuff can change how you look. Spiritually, it's what you love and what you believe that changes how you look. But yes, spirits can sense each other even more clearly. Sense meaning look, smell, see, touch, taste each other more clearly than we can here. It's more tangible. It's not like, ooh, it's very tangible. Kathy Ritz says, is it always God's will we stay married? Not always. Let's see. So this is really thorny because so on one hand, it's like, oh man, whenever I hear about people getting divorced, I'm like, oh man, I wish that had worked out. That's too bad. And just because you think, when you're not there in the thick of whatever they're going through, you just think like, oh man, that would have been so great if they'd found a way. And Swedenborg does talk about it's good to stay together. He talks about obviously there's the ideal of conjugal love that he has, which is really something you experience more in the afterlife, where people become more and more one and they fit together, and it's really great. So there's that. But then on the other hand, there's sometimes when people are married and it's dangerous for one of them, or it's really something they can't stay in. And I don't want to say, well, you should, because of religion, you should stay together in a bad situation. And actually, Swedenborg, in his book on married love, that's how the new translation is, it's often called conjugal love, conjugal, not conjugal. He has whole sections on reasons for separation and divorce. And so I don't think you could say with something as complex as marriage, you can't just say, you always got to stay married, or God never wants you to, or you can just get divorced as soon as you feel like it at all. It's a living thing in the middle. So I would say, if anybody's telling you, oh, it's just black and white, I don't think so. Is that a good answer? Yeah, hopefully. Okay. Angie Hibbins says, hi, Curtis. What does Swedenborg say about a designated time to die? Do we choose our time to go home like a pre-plan before we incarnate? He never talks about us planning anything before we incarnate. He doesn't talk about anything before this life. As far as a designated time to die, Swedenborg seemed to know exactly when he was going to die. He didn't know it throughout his life, but as it approached, there's recordings of him having told a couple people that he lived with. I think there was like the person he was renting from, and he had like a caretaker or something who would come in and help when he was old and help him make meals and stuff, or something. And both of them, I believe, had written letters, or we have some recorded evidence of them saying he said he was going to die at this time, and then he did it. So there's a couple things about that. A designated time to die. As I said, I think in the last Wednesday, when you die is dependent on what you need to do to regenerate. Like, do you need to be in this world long enough to learn some more spiritual lessons? What use are you to spirits and angels? Like right now, all of us are, by the way we think and feel, we are providing an environment in which spirits and angels can connect and do their own thinking and feeling. So that's important. There's also the use that we have to each other in this world. So there's all those factors going together have to do with when it's our time or when it's not. Earthcat says hello again. Hey, Jean says, we know you're totally educated, Curtis. Yeah, it's obvious as soon as I open my mouth. Okay, let's see where we go. Okay. Oh, Blake. Okay. Gail Lemieux says, have you ever heard of 963 hertz frequency? I only came across this concept last night and have not had time to research it. Unfortunately, I don't think I have. Just Jean says, life review, dreading it. Helpful ideas on this? Man, life reviews rock. As far as the stuff near-death experiencers report, it's so great. I've never heard someone who overall was saying, I wish I didn't have one. Even the people who had painful stuff they had to relive. Not painful as in, oh, when something terrible happened to me, but painful as in when I did mean things to other people and having to regret that. And not that God and angels are never saying that was bad. So it's people feeling bad themselves. Always in the end, they're like, it was good for me. I liked it. So, okay, helpful ideas in this. You are going to be reviewing your life. With the people that love you the most, with total super fans of yours. Angels and God, total super fans of yours. And I see it more as a chance when you're going to get questions answered, get closure on things. I think it's going to be a very healing situation. The Pearl, Curtis, I like the color of your jacket. Thanks, Pearl. What is that book on the table to your right? You're what, this old thing? You're talking about Divine Love and Wisdom, the very book I had mentioned before, which has great stuff about the substance and form, love and wisdom in the universe. Colin Vickers, question, what's your take on DMT and the experiences, I mispronounced that, psilocybin, and the experiences people report involving interactions with spirits and entities? If I had to guess, I would think, so the spiritual world is all around us all the time. And Swedenborg says it's like a bird of paradise flying so close to your eye that its wingtip brushes your eye. It's right there. And I would think, because if people are taking psychedelics, let's say, or DMT, I don't know if that is a psychedelic or what you'd categorize it as, and they're experiencing these whole worlds. Either it's those worlds are like being just self-generated out of the way the substance affects your neurons or something, or it's a portal into something. I think dreams are a portal into something. Swedenborg says that when we're having dreams and we're having all this stuff, this visual stuff, this auditory stuff in dreams that doesn't exist in the world around us, it's coming out of the spiritual world. He says it can be the speech of spirits that works its way into our memory. So there it's kind of a combination of the actual outside influence and the stuff we have stored up in there. Other times it can be prophetic. You can actually meet people there. I would think if people are taking drugs and meeting spirits, it probably, whatever that drug is doing to the way that your brain interfaces with your spirit, you're probably either breaking through with that or it's allowing enough that influence comes in like it does in dreams. I would think it's allowing you to interact with actual spirits rather than you're just imagining it or something. I don't know, but that's my guess. Kathy V. Question, last one for today. I'm just taking them in order. So if in the afterlife we end up being with whom we truly are meant to be with, do we have intimacy? If so, what would that be like? In afterlife we are with who you're meant to be with. Are you talking about intimacy like sex? Because Swedenborg says it happens. And it's a lot like it is here. We have bodies that are the same, have all the same parts to them. And it's part of this ever-deepening relationship, and it gets better and better and better. The Cube. Good question. If someone's asking badly because they are feeling confused, we should help them with kind words. I think, there's always... Look how was Jesus, right? He was always nice, except for to the religious people. But still, I would think that, yeah, if at all possible, if you really are thinking of, as God thinks, I'm trying to make this person as happy and as much in heaven as I can, the first thing you want to reduce the amount of suffering you're going to cause in them to the bare minimum. So if somebody's confused, they're acting badly because they're confused, I think you would first want to try to approach them with kindness, given that the situation isn't imminently dangerous. If that doesn't work and it's only that harsh words and harsh actions have to happen then, okay, well then you got to do it. But don't do it just because, okay, well, I hate you. If possible, it's like, okay, well, we're going to act like this until you come to your senses, and then we're going to be friendly again. Hey, this is Demo. Hi, Chrome Nukes. Hi, Kathy Ritz. Do we pre-exist before being born humans? I don't think so. Swedenborg seems to be convinced that the process of growing up as a person is when our mind forms. Well, let's see. Like that, he talks all about the life after death. He never talks about a life before birth. And that our consciousness is actually forming as we go through this life. So you couldn't be totally conscious and then be back into being a baby. like a full adult consciousness and back into being a baby. That would take you couldn't do that because your spirit is like your physical body. It's so complicated to like tear that back down would be really hard. But as I'm saying that, I mean, each of us is the embodiment of a particular desire for goodness of God's. Like we are in a lot of ways a particular embodiment, if we allow the Lord into our lives, with a particular embodiment of one bit of God. And obviously that existed before us. So I guess sort of both. I mean, hi Dad, my dad's here. Mishka, hey, how are you? Betty Abode, true, this channel's improved my life. Thanks, Off the Left Eye. Thanks to you, and thanks to all of you being so nice to each other. David N. Hi, Curtis. Hope the team is well and blessed. We are. Thank you. Important question. How do I truly repent from sin? Especially to be free from backsliding and lukewarmness. Okay, let's see. To truly repent from sin, the Swedenborg lays out this process. Well, what's a good book for it? His book, True Christianity, has a lot about repentance, reformation, and regeneration. And you can download that for free on Swedenborg.com. Also, New Jerusalem, I think has a succinct section on it. So as I understand the process, we need to undergo self-examination on a regular basis. And a regular basis could be once a year, just some time where we're regularly looking at ourselves and examining ourselves to see if we can find things that are evil. Evil meaning places where we have a tendency toward enjoying doing things that we know are against kindness, or which is the same thing, against what God wants us to do. Once we've identified something, and it's really, he says it's good to pick one thing and start with. You can do multiple, and that can be powerful, but there's nothing wrong with starting with one thing, and then admit to God, not, I'm just so bad. I have this particular thing that's a problem, and I want to not do it. Can you help me out? And then whenever that particular thing comes up, don't dwell on it. Don't act it out. Don't do it. He says, do that, resist like that once or twice in a month, and you'll notice a change. It seems to be a long game. Just like you can get all revved up and say, I'm going to lose 50 pounds. Well, just recently, like I earlier on this, like last summer or something, I was having this acid reflux, so I wasn't eating much, and I got really skinny. You can go look at those videos back there. You can see it. But I gained it almost all back because it was through this really extreme diet I was on to try to cure the reflux, which eventually it went away, which is great. So it came back. So it's kind of like we can go hard. Like, I'm going to get all this sin out of my life, but it takes a long time to change all that stuff. So truly repenting from sin is not something that you're going to be like the backsliding and lukewarmness is going to happen at times. He says that you're really repented from it once you end up detesting the thing you used to like to do. So if, let's say, I used to like to gossip about people. I used to like to say things that were harmful to them. That would be within the killing commandment. He says actually part of trying to destroy someone's reputation is a part of killing spiritually. So let's say that let's say I used to do it because it was fun for me to feel that power, and I liked the reaction I got out of people. If I get to the point, so it would at first be, well, I noticed that, I don't want to do that, pray the Lord for help, begin a new life. And with that, next time the opportunity presents itself, if I say, I would do this, I want to do this, but I'm not going to do it because this is not good. This is making me think. There is a really great program out there called Begin a New Life. beginanewlife.info. Yes, okay. This is a Swedenborgian minister, a friend of mine named Mark Pendleton, started this program, which is basically a workbooking of Swedenborg's process of regeneration. I'm going to post this in the chat, but if you're watching in post, it's called beginanewlife.info. You can download like worksheets and stuff like that there, and it takes you through whenever something's coming up. Here's what I say, what I do. It's all taken right out of Swedenborg. It's actually really ingenious. So that would be a good way to do what I'm talking about. Okay, let's see where we are here, man. Okay, we got like 10 more powerful minutes here. Okay, Lemieux. What I was saying as Lemieux is actually Lemure. Sorry about that, Gail. And along with that, she said, if we're made in the image of God, then why do aliens have a different form? So the image of God is the human form, and the human form is less about the shape than about the way all the different functions in the body happen. So, like, you have eyes, which do a particular thing. You have teeth, which do a particular thing. You have a liver, which does a particular thing. It's like purifying and detoxing. Your teeth are making food digestible. Your eyes are scanning your environment. It's about those different functions together. If you think about everything useful, every part of your body is doing, that's why you can say like God has that form, because God has all those functions. So extraterrestrials that Swedenborg describes, they're in that form, even if, and the way that he describes them is like, oh yeah, they're like us, but these particular people, they had like smaller heads and taller bodies, and it's not radically different. It's probably within the variation, close to within the variation of what you see in human beings on Earth. But I did want to just stop and say that the form, sure, it displays itself like this, but what's important about it and what you find an analog to in heaven is all the different functions. Thanks, Des Stewart. PA Patriot Eric, question. Have you ever looked at the Dictionary of Correspondences? How has knowing about correspondences help you? I found the dictionary in a used bookstore 20 years ago, and it gave me joy. I don't know if I have a copy or not, but I have seen a Dictionary of Correspondences, and it is super joyful. I'm sure I've looked at it in my life. But maybe, I bet we have one in this office here somewhere. How has knowing about correspondences helped you? It helps me enjoy nature more, which is something I really love anyway, but it gets me to see God more clearly when I think about the way that I love the way that like shallow ocean water on sand looks, or the feeling of being in the woods, understanding that, or like what it's like for me to see like a reptile or something I think is really cool, that those are all facets of God, and that I'm learning about what God is, and that's been cool in expanding my picture there. Bobby Bobbing says, my question is this: do you think this pandemic has been a teaching point for humanity? This virus is really putting into contrast and highlighting these different path choices humans have open to them. I think everything, God is trying to make everything a teaching moment. I do think so. I think, so in individual lives, we have spiritual crises. These are these points in which negativity is stirred up in us, and we reach a point of despair. And it's through that we're introduced into humility and understand our dependence on God and get a better sense of what right and wrong are and all that. Seems like something like a global pandemic is kind of like that for the whole human race. I mean, there's a lot of suffering, and there's a lot of confusion, and people's tempers are flaring up on all sides. Hopefully it is getting us clarity on what's important. It's not to say that God would ever say, well, I need to teach people something, let me start this pandemic. God, only what's good comes from God. and the evils that are allowed, the evils, viruses, everything comes out of hell. According to Swedenborg, everything negative, everything, correspondences we're just talking about, everything on the earth has an origin in either heaven or hell. Like it's a representation of something that exists there. So everything positive and life-giving is a reflection of something that's in heaven, and everything negative and life-destroying is a reflection of something in hell. So any virus that kills people is some kind of embodiment of something in hell. So God is not saying, I'm going to do this, but for some reason, there's probably a lot of pandemics that could have happened that Providence stopped, but this one happened, and it has to be that somehow more good in the end can be brought out of the whole thing. Mishka says, I'm so grateful for this channel as well. Awesome. Hey, Lupe. Hi, Richard Lee. I always mispronounce everyone's everything, but good to see you. Okay. Everything Awesome says, why more Swedenborg than the Bible or than Jesus? You can't really separate the two, because Swedenborg wrote almost entirely about the Bible. Like his whole Secrets of Heaven was going line by line through the Bible and explaining its inner meaning. All this stuff that I'm saying that is based on what Swedenborg says is the inner meaning of the Bible, like the spiritual meaning of the Bible. And whenever Swedenborg is talking about the Lord, which he talks about constantly, he says that that's the name that was a more common name back then for Jesus. So he says that the whole Bible is about Jesus, and that this way to look at life that Swedenborg says he's pulling out of the Bible, all this truth, that is like we're seeing Jesus through that. So the reason that I talk so much about Swedenborg here is that there's plenty of resources for everyone to read the Bible. I mean, there's a million websites about that, people explaining that. Here is one of the only places where you can get the Swedenborg pathway into that. And in my humble opinion, Swedenborg's writings are the clearest path to Jesus in the Bible. This is the way that you can understand it the most, and the most direct way to Jesus. That's what I think, anyway. Lupe, thank you, Lupe. Appreciate it. Okay, wait a second. What's going on here? Oh no. My mouse is giving me something. Okay, here we go. Sorry, I lost my place. Oh, wow, and we're almost out of time, too. Okay, great. So, let's see. I hope I'm probably missing a lot of people's questions at the end. Sorry, I just had this thing go crazy. And if I didn't get your question here, I'm sorry. And leave it in the comments afterwards, because if it's in the chat and I missed it here, if I missed it here, sorry. Who said? What were you talking about? Goombas from Super Mario Brothers in here. You know I love Super Mario Brothers. Sorry, if you leave in the chat and I miss it, then it's gone. But hey, Ryan, sorry you got to this at the end. So it goes. Then it's gone. But if you leave it afterwards in the comments here, it's guaranteed that our community care team will get to it. So do that. Hey, you guys, can you please donate and support the Swedenborg Foundation? It's afterleft.com/donate. is a great way to do it. afterlife.com/donate. We're not for profit, so as I said, this is one of the only places you can get this Swedenborg stuff, and the only reason we've been able to do it is the generous support of all of you. So if you've got a few extra dollars lying around, consider helping us bring this to the next person. Thank you. Jenny says, if there's a course on correspondences, I want in. Yeah, I want that too. Cool. Thanks, everybody. See you soon. Really soon. Oh, wait, gotta get my streaming thing here. Okay. Thanks, everybody, for watching.